I think for me, one of the most important life lessons I learned was humility and just putting your total trust and faith in the Lord. Um, I think every missionary learns that a little bit because you get to the point where you know that you can't do all the things you need to do, but you have to do them. And so without the Lord's help, it's going to be impossible. I attribute a lot of it too to my amazing mission president, who was such an amazing example. Is one of the most faithful, um, in every sense of that word, kind of men that I have ever known. Um, I remember my mission president decided to make me a trainer very early in my mission, and I felt like I barely understood Spanish. I felt like I could barely get around, but I had this other American missionary who knew Spanish less than I did, didn't know how to get around anywhere, and I felt so helpless because I knew that the work I was doing was so important. And I remember there was one night in particular where I got down on my knees and I just kind of, in some ways, I feel like had the first real prayer of my life, like the real kind of prayer. Uh, and I just I kind of just laid it all out. I told Heavenly Father, like, I know I'm not like capable of doing the things that I need to do right now. Like, with what I know and how much I have right now, I can't do it. And so I want to do it. And so I'm giving my will and my everything totally and putting it in your hands. And I know with your help that I can do these things that I'm supposed to do. And it was the most amazing uh, prayer, I think, of my mission in terms of what I learned immediately. Because I felt just this sense of, it wasn't like, oh, it's going to be fine, but it was just like, you can do it. Like, you're going to be able to make it through. And you're not going to be able to speak perfect Spanish, and you're not going to be able to find all the people that you want to find, but you're going to be just fine. I'm going to take care of you. And that was still to this day one of the most impactful prayers and spiritual experiences I've ever had. And that lesson of being humble and submitting yourself to the will of the Lord is something that I believe strongly that we ought to do every day. Something that I typically will say to myself in times of frustration or struggle is, I know that I don't know everything, but I know that the Lord does, and that's enough for me. And so when I get frustrated and don't know what my next step needs to be, I remember back to that time on my mission, and I don't think I've ever been more vulnerable or incapable than I was at that moment, and it worked out perfectly. And so that was a huge testimony builder and something I reflect on to this day, of the power of being humble and putting your trust in the Lord.